Hello. So this time I would like to give you some more hints, practical hints on how to learn a language. As you remember from my first recording, which is a little bit more theoretical, I'm going to talk about vocabulary lists, I'm going to talk about Kindle, about podcasts, about more traditional methods, but also more modern methods of learning a language. So first things first, let's talk about vocabulary lists. Very often people come to me and they complain that it's difficult, it's a struggle to learn vocabulary. Obviously, I as a teacher do whatever I can in order to revise certain vocabulary, but I think that you as a student, you need to prepare a nice vocabulary list simply and go over it regularly, like every week on Saturday or on Sunday, when it is nice and cozy at your home and you're rested, you slept well during the night, and your mind is fresh. So you compile a nice vocabulary list. I'm not sure if it's going to be visible, but this is my notebook when I was preparing for my Spanish certificate. And some of the words are underlined, some of the words are crossed out, words and expressions. There are some exclamation marks and next to certain words, because sometimes it happens that a word doesn't want to get stuck in your mind. Then you highlight it in, for example, yellow color. Later on, if you go through those list of yellow highlighted words and they do not get stuck in your mind again, you cannot remember them, you highlight them in green color, for example. Then you only concentrate on those words highlighted in green. And later on, after a month, 2 months, you try to highlight those words which stubbornly do not want to be remembered. You highlight them in the red color. And then you only concentrate on those words highlighted in red. If still there are certain words that you cannot remember, you simply compile a new list and you start the process all over again. The same refers to transcripts, so you know there are more of those lists that I have compiled over the years. So when it comes to your handbooks and those volume recordings that I told you about, each student's book contains a transcript at the end of the book. So, for example, here we've got a transcript from one of my Spanish books. Before transferring them to your mobile phone, try to listen to those recordings with text in front of your eyes, so that you get visual and then audio record of what you're going through. So first you listen with the text in front of your eyes, just make sure that all the words are explained and translated into your original language, and then keep listening to those VOM recordings. You know the principle, they are called VOM recordings because they make you puke, they make you vomit, you're totally fed up with them after a number of times when you've listened to them, but all those expressions, all those texts are recorded in your brain, and this is a very important issue when it comes to foreign language learning. Of course, I do not want to neglect the importance of flashcards, various ways of learning vocabulary. If you've got flashcards on one side, you've got something written on the other side, you've got some explanation, some translation into your original language. That's a very good method. Do use all kinds of methods. Now, talking about books, this is a nice pile of bilingual books. What it means? It means that, for example, a book is written, this is a German pile, French, Italian and Spanish, which I've read. So here on the one page you've got a text written in German, and on the other page you've got a mirroring text in English. So this is a great method for learning languages, because after reading 2 or 3 of such books, you're able to read regular books. And this brings us to the topic of Kindle. Kindle is a wonderful device. I'm not getting any money for advertising this product, but I think it is brilliant for language learning, especially when talking about those bilingual books, because okay, you can find a few on Kindle, but also because all the classics are available for free. You can, for example, start reading Madame Bovary in French, and then you start, for example, you may use the same application on your mobile phone. In a second I'm going to show it in close-up. So for example, here on Kindle I've got the French version, and here I've got the English version. So you're able to read those at the same time and compare. But another great feature of Kindle is translation. For example, if you tap a certain part of the text, then you can go and ask the device to translate it into English. It's not a perfect translation, but good enough for immersing yourself in a language. If you want to get to the bottom of things, for example, there are certain words that you're a little bit suspicious when it comes to the translation, you just ask the device to translate it properly with a monolingual dictionaries that the device contains. I, for example, read books in all the languages that I know and that I'm learning, and I believe that it is a great device to maintain your knowledge of a given language and also to expand, to develop further. So this is what I'm talking about, that here I've got the text of the book in French, and here I've got it in English. Also, what's great about this device is that it nicely syncs. So for example, if you're reading one book on this device, it nicely syncs online with whatever you're reading on on your mobile phone. Of course, the version, the app, Kindle app on your mobile phone also has this function of a monolingual dictionary, which allows you to look up the words that you're looking for. So how to install an app? You go to something that's called Sklep Play in Polish for some reason. I'm not with Play mobile phone provider, but this is what it is called. Probably you've got something similar, so the place where you get all the applications. You type in Kindle and you download it. So you tap this little picture, this place, and it downloads. So now let's move on to podcasts. The one that I want to recommend to you is called Stitcher, Stitcher. Again, I have it installed on my mobile phone, so I'll show you how it works. I told you how to find it online. This is what it looks like. Look here, 285 hours of listened materials. You go, if you're a beginner, you go to education, you go to language, and then you've got a very nice podcast which is called English as a Second Language. And look, here they talk about parts of the body. It is recorded in a very slow, in a very clear way, albeit with American accent, but still I think it is very useful for learners of English. So this is what you could listen to every morning on your way to work, on your way to school, wherever you have some time. You cannot read, so you can listen. You can expand your listening comprehension skills. For those who are more advanced, I just want to present the array of subjects that they cover. So popular and training, comedy, news, politics. So for example, if you're interested in fitness, you just write in fitness here, and you've got a whole list of different podcasts on this subject. So there are like millions, I would say. For those who are interested in foreign languages, and which I find extremely useful, you've got various languages represented here. So for example, what I do with my Portuguese, I go to Portuguese section, Here we've got Noticias Politica, and for example Deutsche Welle prepares a very good service of news in Portuguese. The same I do with Italian, with Spanish, with Russian. So whenever I have some time at the gym or on my way to work, I try to listen to various recordings from all over the world. So I would like to recommend also IPP podcast player, because it gives you a possibility of downloading all podcasts onto your mobile device, onto your mobile phone, and you may store them there. You do not need Wi-Fi range. So that's my favorite podcast in German, Wie war dein Tagliebling? I've got other podcasts in French, in Russian, and in all the languages that I'm interested in. So really a very, very useful device. This slowly brings us to the end of my presentation. Today I've told you about all the practical ways of learning a language. I hope you will profit from that, and I do really encourage you to change your habits, to start doing it the way you diet or the way you go to the gym. Be passionate about languages, try to have contact with them every time you have an opportunity. Stimulate your language center, and then you will see the results and you will be amazed. See you